I was just 16 when my mother shoved $200 into my hand and left me alone at gate D9 of Skyvale Airport. No ticket, no house key, not even a glance back. The woman who once swore she would never abandon me now walked straight through security with her new husband, Victor Hale, and his children, leaving me stranded among strangers. In an instant, I realized I had never truly belonged in the grand Silver Ridge mansion where they lived, nor had I ever been part of the picture-perfect family my mother tried so hard to display. There, I was nothing more than a shadow, hidden behind the flawless portraits hanging on the walls. That night, surrounded by the airport's loudspeaker announcements and the rolling thud of suitcases, I didn't just lose my mother. I lost the belief that family was unbreakable. I stood there, trembling with both fear and fury, asking myself, how could a child become such a disposable burden? That question carved itself deep into my heart, igniting a fire that pushed me to uncover the truth they tried so desperately to hide. And that journey dragged me into a chain of events where every piece of evidence cut sharper than a blade, leading to a reckoning they never saw coming. I had no idea then, this was only the beginning. My childhood was tied to a shabby apartment on the edge of Skyvale City. The cramped unit had peeling walls, suffocating summers and winters where the wind whistled through cracked windows. But to me, it was the safest place in the world, because every night after her late shift, my mom still came home, smiled, patted my head, and whispered, "Everything will be okay, Lily." Back then, I believed her completely. In the drawer under my bed, I kept a torn shoebox filled with dozens of little notes she left whenever she had to work another shift. "Lily, eat the pizza in the fridge. Love you." I saved every scrap like treasure, proof that I was the center of her world. Evidence, handwritten note, 2017. "Lily, eat the pizza in the fridge. Love you." My dad left when I was 8. I still remember that fateful afternoon. He sat on one end of the sofa, Mom on the other. Neither looked at the other, just traded dry words. I trembled and asked, "Did I do something wrong?" Dad shook his head gently, while Mom turned away, wiping her tears. From that day on, he slowly disappeared from my life. Weekend visits grew sparse, then vanished altogether. When I asked, Mom only said flatly, "Your father has a new family now. Don't expect anything." And I believed her, because who else could I believe? I was 13 when Victor Hale entered our lives. He was a regular at the diner where Mom worked, wearing sharp suits and leaving fat tips. I remember the first time she mentioned him, her cheeks flushed, voice trembling. "He looks at me like I'm the most important person in the world." 6 months later, they were married. We moved to Silver Ridge Estates, a mansion with a turquoise pool, a mini theater, and bedrooms so vast my footsteps echoed coldly. But I quickly realized I didn't belong there. My room was the smallest, tucked at the end of the hall, far from the master suite. The walls were covered in family portraits. Mom, Victor, his 3 kids, Olivia, Jackson, and Zoe, but never me. Olivia, a year older, always glanced at me with disdain. One time while on speakerphone with a friend, she said loudly enough for me to hear, "Dad's new wife came with baggage. Total disaster." I turned back to my room, biting my lip, and scribbled in my blue leather journal, "Breathing luggage." Evidence. Blue journal, 2021, line, "Breathing luggage." I still tried to fit in. I complimented Zoe's drawings, offered to help Olivia with math, asked Jackson about his video games. The responses were shrugs or cold silence. Dinners in the lavish dining room became torture. They chatted about tennis clubs, concerts, vacations to the Maldives, while I whispered a few words before being drowned out. My mom, the woman who once hunted clearance sales with me, now sat in glittering gowns, hair dyed and polished, laughing brightly at Victor's stories. I looked at her and saw a stranger, as if she had shed the part of her life tied to me. I developed a habit of carrying 3 things everywhere: the shoebox of old notes, my blue journal, and a small key on a chain, the key to our old apartment. I wore it as a reminder that once I had a real family, a place where I was loved. One night, passing my mother in Victor's bedroom, I overheard whispers. Victor asked, "And what about Lily?" Mom answered curtly, "Already handled, don't worry." My body froze, heart racing. The next day I asked, "Mom, what were you saying about me last night?" She gave a dry laugh. "You're imagining things. Just travel arrangements." But I knew it wasn't imagination. Around the same time in a civics class, the teacher mentioned Northcrest's family law. My eyes locked on the textbook as she explained. If a teenager over 16 can prove parental abandonment, their testimony will carry special weight in court and can immediately affect custody. I scribbled quickly in my journal. Family Code 12.4, testimony valid at 16 if abandoned. I never thought I'd need it. But that note was like a hidden blade in my pocket, waiting to be drawn. Sometimes I tried suggesting things to Mom. I want to join the writing club at school. She barely glanced at me. Not the right time, Lily. Be grateful you already have everything here. I bit my lip and stayed silent. Inside, a cold emptiness grew. Then one night, while the mansion was silent, I sat in my tiny room at the end of the hall, opened my journal, and admitted what I had avoided. Something was very wrong, and I was about to be pushed out of the picture they had painted. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed. A message lit up the screen, short, chilling, and enough to freeze me. I stared at the words in disbelief, sensing that the worst was only just beginning. The day of departure to the Maldives unfolded with a buzz I had never witnessed inside the Silver Ridge mansion. From early morning, Victor loaded suitcases into the gleaming SUV. Olivia skipped around showing off her new bikini, Jackson clutched his game console, and Zoe giggled when my mom handed her a pair of designer goggles. I trailed behind, dragging my small suitcase with only a few worn clothes and the swimsuit I bought with babysitting money. I tried to look excited, but my chest tightened at how out of place I felt amid the luxury. On the drive to Skyvale International Airport, no one mentioned me. They laughed about private resorts, meals prepared by personal chefs. I stared out the window, uneasy. I finally asked, "Mom, where's my ticket?" She didn't look at me, just muttered, "In my bag." "Don't worry." I nodded, but inside, unease hardened like ice. At gate D9, Victor swiftly handed passports to the agent. I counted only 5. Victor, Olivia, Jackson, Zoe, Mom. But me? My heart pounded, sweat dampened my forehead. When the boarding passes were handed out, the last one left her hand without my name. "Excuse me," I stammered. "There must be a mistake. My ticket?" The agent checked the list. Only 5 passengers, no Lily Carter. Victor tugged the group toward security. "Karen, talk to her," he said flatly. They rolled their bags away, leaving Mom to pull me aside near a gift shop. She bent down, voice low but sharp. "Listen, Lily. Plans changed. You're not going to the Maldives." My ears roared. "What? Did I do something wrong?" My voice cracked. She glanced at Victor and the kids waiting. Victor, thinks this trip should be just for his family." I agreed. "This is their chance to bond. You understand?" "I'm family too," I shouted, tears flooding my eyes. Mom frowned, yanked cash from her purse, and shoved it into my hands. "Here, $200. Take a cab home. The neighbor has the spare key. The fridge is stocked. I'll call when we land." I stared at the crumpled bills, trembling. "Mom, you're leaving me here? At the airport?" She shrugged coldly. "Don't make a scene. It's only 2 weeks. You're grown. I have to go." She brushed a dry kiss on my forehead and turned away. Her heels clacked on the tile, each step like a hammer blow to my chest. I stood frozen, suitcase at my feet, money in my hand. From a distance, Olivia glanced back and smirked before vanishing with the others. Gate D9 echoed with announcements, but my world had stopped. I collapsed onto a bench, tears spilling. I tried calling Mom, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted, "Hope first class is worth it, because I've been abandoned." No reply. Then my phone buzzed. I thought maybe she changed her mind, but it was Karen Carter. Sent items. My hands shook as I opened her email account, still logged in on our home computer. A message sent a week earlier glared at me. Evidence, email, June 10th, content, "Victor, don't worry about Lily. I'll leave her home. She can handle herself. This will be a trip just for you and the kids." Reading it shattered me again. This wasn't sudden. Not my fault, it was premeditated. Mom plotted to cut me out. I clutched the phone, throat tight. Pain surged into fury, crashing like a tidal wave. In my head, I screamed, "They want to erase me? Then I'll show them no one can erase me from my own story." Before I could plan, an airport guard approached. "Young lady, how long have you been here? Do you have someone with you?" I wiped my tears, forcing a crooked smile. "Waiting for a friend. They're coming." He eyed me skeptically, then left after a warning. Humiliation burned through me. Night fell. The airport emptied. I curled on the bench, suitcase at my feet, money stuffed in my pocket. Each boarding call stabbed deeper. I knew the worst had just begun, yet a whisper rose inside. If this is real, I'll need proof. Every scrap, every trace to fight back. I opened my blue journal, hand shaking, and wrote, "Today, gate D9, Mom left me. They will pay." Evidence, Blue Journal, 2023 entry, "Today, gate D9, Mom left me." I didn't know then that cruel abandonment was only the spark, because something far worse was coming, but worse was coming. I once thought the moment Mom abandoned me at gate D9 was the cruelest act she could commit, but in truth, it was only the doorway to a string of days filled with betrayal, humiliation, and a deeper spiral into isolation. 2 days after they took off for the Maldives, my phone suddenly rang. Mom's name lit up the screen. My chest tightened with a flicker of hope. Maybe she regretted it, maybe she wanted to apologize. I answered, hands trembling. "Lily," her voice came through high-pitched, rehearsed. "You have to understand, I didn't abandon you. I just wanted you to learn a little independence. This is good for you." I choked back a sob. Independence? At an airport? With no key, no house, no one? She sighed, waves crashing faintly in the background. "Don't be dramatic. You'll grow stronger from this. I did it for you." I clutched the phone like a lifeline. "Mom, don't twist lies into lessons. Just admit it. I was abandoned. You abandoned me." The line went quiet, then her voice dropped, sharp and venomous. "If you keep making a scene, don't expect to come back to Silver Ridge." My breath caught. The warning sliced through me like a blade. Not only was she unapologetic, but she threatened to sever me completely. In that moment, I knew I was truly alone. Evidence, voicemail, June 12th, "Don't expect to come back to Silver Ridge." I turned to my old school, hoping for comfort from familiar faces, but the second I stepped into the cafeteria, whispers swarmed. Olivia had posted a photo of me sitting alone at the airport, captioned, "Drama queen left behind but still wants to play princess." A group of classmates pointed. One sneered, "Hey Lily, why not write a book? 10 easy steps to getting abandoned by your mom." Laughter erupted, sharp and merciless. I froze, gripping my backpack strap until my fingers went numb. I stammered, "You don't know the truth. This isn't a joke." But my shaky voice drowned under their laughter. I fled to the bathroom, collapsing onto a cold plastic chair. Tears streamed as their mocking voices echoed in my head. Pulling out my phone, I saw Olivia's post had hundreds of likes. The whole city of Skyvale now knew me as the abandoned daughter. There was nowhere left to hide. Evidence, screenshot of social media post, 2023. Caption, "Drama queen left behind but still wants to play princess." One evening, I returned to Silver Ridge with Mrs. Thompson, the elderly neighbor, just to collect a few belongings. Stepping into Mom's office, I noticed her laptop still open. On the screen, the email account showed, "Deleting sent items." My heart pounded. She was wiping away every trace of her plan with Victor. Panic surged. I yanked out the USB from my bag and copied everything I could before it vanished. Each second dragged like an eternity. This was my only chance to preserve proof that she had plotted to abandon me. Mrs. Thompson gasped, "Lily, what are you doing?" I bit my lip, saving the truth. If I don't, they'll erase it all. I managed to capture one damning email before it disappeared. Mom had written to Victor, "The less mention of Lily, the better. Don't let her think she has any place in our long-term plans." My world spun as I reread the words. Evidence. Email, June 8th. "Don't let her think she has any place in our long-term plans." After 3 crushing blows, I felt cornered. Mom hadn't just abandoned me, she was erasing me as her child. My peers mocked me online while the last scraps of evidence were nearly destroyed. Each step left me feeling smaller, trapped against a wall. I stared at the USB in my hand, fury rising. If they could twist the story, I would gather every fragment of truth to flip the board. But before I could plan further, a new text flashed across my phone. From Mom, short and chilling, "Don't dig too deep, Lily. You'll regret it." I read it again and again, each word slicing my skin. That threat was more than fear. It was a promise that something darker was coming. And I didn't know then, but it was the beginning of their greatest mistake. Because soon, Mom and Victor would overreach and reveal everything. I used to believe the shock of being abandoned at the airport was the worst cruelty imaginable. But I was wrong. What I lived through was only the surface. behind it, a larger, colder scheme was revealing itself piece by piece. I discovered it on a sweltering afternoon when Mrs. Thompson, the elderly neighbor who kept our spare key, handed me an envelope she had found near the Silver Ridge mailbox. The envelope bore the red seal of a law office. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a draft letter my mother had prepared for her attorney. In it, she spoke of a long-term plan with Victor, where I was reduced to just 2 words. Very good. Reading the section where she proposed to minimize the interference of Lily's biological father to avoid future legal complications, I felt my chest collapse. This wasn't a rash decision at Gate D9. This was a structured strategy to erase me from their lives. Evidence insert number 3, legal draft letter, June 5th, content, minimize the interference of Lily's biological father. She is a burden in our long-term plan. I knew I had to show my dad. In my memory, he was absent, but some part of me still longed for him to come back. I left him a message, voice shaking. Dad, I need you. Mom really abandoned me. Please believe me. Then I waited. 1 day, 2 days, silence. When hope dimmed, Olivia struck again. She posted another photo. Me at the airport, shot from afar, the day they left. Caption, drama queen still doesn't get she's been replaced. It spread quickly. Comments piled up, she's delusional. If she got abandoned, maybe it's her attitude. I read every word, tears streaming, my hands trembling. I typed replies but deleted them. No one wanted my truth. The next day, Mom called on video from the Maldives. Behind her, turquoise sea and a sparkling cocktail. She smiled, voice dripping pity. Lily, I saw your photo. You've embarrassed me. Why can't you just grow up? I rasped. You abandoned me. How can you say that? She shrugged, tone icy. If you keep acting out, I'll prove you're unstable. Believe me, the court won't side with a delusional child. When the screen went black, I collapsed, cornered in every way. Every attempt to prove the truth felt useless. I was losing, isolated, painted as a liar to the world. For the first time, I wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe I really was nothing but a burden. It was then I snuck into Victor's office, heart pounding. His laptop sat open. I combed through archived emails. What I found froze me. Karen, Victor had written, I've invested too much in this perfect family image. Lily will ruin everything. If you want me to stay, you must prove she's not a problem. Another email read, if necessary, give her a few sedatives to create evidence of instability. I know someone at the hospital who can confirm it. I shook as I printed them, horror coursing through me. This wasn't just Mom's negligence, it was Victor's calculated plot to erase me, and my mother was complicit. I showed the documents to Mrs. Thompson, hoping for validation. She frowned, voice worried. Dear, I'm not sure a court will believe this. Victor has connections, he could twist everything. You must be careful. Her doubt hit me hard. The papers in my hand felt flimsy, powerless. I was a pawn against their entire board. That night, curled on my narrow bed, I clutched the old apartment key on my chain. Memories of handwritten notes saying love you flooded back. Once I was cherished, now I was disposable. The pain was unbearable. Morning came, and in my despair I opened my blue journal. On an old page a shaky note glared back. Family Code Book 12.4. If a teen over 16 proves abandonment, their testimony carries weight in court. I froze. Each word sparked like fire. I was 16. I had evidence. Notes, emails, voicemails. Combined, they could prove my abandonment. This could be my only way, I whispered. For the first time, I thought of revenge. Not with knives or rage, but with truth, with law, with the very code they never expected me to know. I drew a deep breath, cheeks still streaked with dried tears. The abandoned girl at Gate D9 was becoming a collector of evidence, and in that moment, a clear thought burned. Their game was about to change, but I didn't know yet. Just as I prepared to strike back, they would move first. And their strike could wipe out everything. I had cried myself dry. I had lived through the humiliation of being left at the airport, the mockery from classmates, and the despair of knowing evidence could be wiped away. But now, something shifted. When I reread the shaky note in my blue journal, the Northcrest law that said a teen over 16 could testify if abandoned, I knew I was holding the key. If I wanted to survive and reclaim my dignity, I needed a plan. Not an ordinary plan, but one built like a chessboard, every move calculated with blood and tears. The first step was to gather every fragment and stitch them into a complete picture. Time was against me. Mom and Victor were erasing trails fast. But I had anchors. The emails salvaged on my USB, the legal draft letter, and the handwritten notes Mom once left for me. I went to see Aunt Mary Evans, Mom's younger sister, who had been cut off years ago for defending me. Her hands trembled when she saw me. She cried as I told her about the airport. Digging into her bag, she handed me an envelope. I kept some letters your dad sent. Your mom tried to hide them. Thank God I grabbed these. My pulse raced as I opened one, my 12th birthday card, his handwriting familiar and steady. I will always love you. Never doubt that. Evidence, birthday card 2019, father's handwriting, I will always love you. I clutched them like treasures. Each line, each word, would become a puzzle piece in the truth I was building. Alone, I was powerless. I needed allies, both legal and personal. Aunt Mary introduced me to Hannah Cole, a family attorney in Northcrest. Hannah listened with calm focus, her eyes sharp as she examined my evidence. Lily, she said, what you have is a good start, but we'll need witnesses, credible outsiders who can confirm your story. I remembered Gloria, the waitress at the airport diner who gave me a milkshake when I cried alone. I found her again. She nodded instantly. I remember you. You sat by yourself for hours, face streaked with tears. I'll testify. Then I tracked down the security officer who had questioned me. At first he hesitated, but after hearing everything, he said softly, if needed, I'll confirm you were left alone. Kid, you didn't deserve this. For the first time, hope flickered. I was no longer entirely alone. The third step was the gamble. I knew Mom and Victor had money, connections, influence. If I relied only on court filings, they could bury it all. I needed a blow in a place they couldn't spin. Skyvale Country Club, the very shrine of status Mom flaunted. Hannah suggested, if you expose them there in front of peers and witnesses, their denials will crumble. But it's a dangerous move. If you falter, your credibility dies. I swallowed hard. This was my only chance. I envisioned standing in the club's grand hall, unveiling each letter, each email, each voicemail, forcing every polished face to witness the truth. It was a gamble that could destroy me or set me free. There was still something I hadn't told anyone, not Aunt Mary, not Hannah. On my USB was one more file, captured when Mom was deleting data. I called it my ace. I didn't know when to play it, but I knew it could end the game. I kept it hidden, silent. If word leaked, they would stop at nothing to ruin it. I understood the risks. If witnesses backed out under threats, my foundation would collapse. If Hannah was pressured by Victor's high-powered lawyers, the case could stall. If the club refused to let me speak, my platform would vanish. Worst of all, if they spun the story, I'd be branded the ungrateful daughter forever. I was walking into a gamble where a single mistake could crush me. But after all I'd endured, there was no retreat. Hannah and I prepared meticulously. Every piece of evidence printed, every witness briefed. Aunt Mary squeezed my hand. You won't be alone, Lily. For a moment, I felt in control. Then my phone buzzed. An anonymous message lit the screen. We know what you're planning. If you walk into the club tomorrow, another truth will surface, one you don't want anyone to hear. I froze, blood draining from my face. This unforeseen blow was a dagger aimed straight at the fragile plan I had built. My mind spun with dread. What secret were they hiding? And could I withstand it when it finally struck? That morning, I knew there was no turning back. My siege-up plan had reached its final step, execution. Everything needed to happen with precision, like the chessboard I had set in place. But I also knew that in any match, risk lurks in every move, and the worst had truly arrived. Step 1. Collect. Presenting the first evidence. The Skyvale Country Club glittered with lights, laughter from wealthy members echoing through the grand hall. My hands trembled as I walked in with Aunt Mary and attorney Hannah. The luxury had once made me feel small, but today I had a purpose. When Mom and Victor appeared, their faces froze at the sight of me. Olivia smirked, while Mom stammered, Lily, what are you doing here? I didn't answer. I stepped forward, pulled out my documents, and spoke into the microphone Hannah had connected. I want everyone to hear the truth. My voice rang out. I held up the legal draft my mother wrote to her attorney. In this letter, my mother calls me a burden. She plotted to erase me from this family. Gasps rippled across the room. Mom's face drained of color. Evidence insert number 4. Legal draft letter, June 5th. Lily is a burden in the long-term plan. Step 2. A line. Witnesses stepped forward. Hannah signaled, and Gloria, the airport waitress, approached. Her voice shook but carried. I saw this girl sit at the airport crying for hours. No one came for her. I gave her a milkshake because I felt sorry for her. Then the security officer stepped up. His tone was firm. I questioned her because she'd been there alone too long. She was clearly abandoned. The crowd buzzed. Faces that once smiled at my mother now stared at her in disbelief. Step 3. Gamble. The counterstrike. Victor strode forward, his smile cold. Enough. This is theater. Lily is a troubled teenager, making up stories for attention. We have proof of her instability. He raised an envelope. My stomach dropped. Inside were falsified medical records claiming I had been prescribed sedatives for a disorder. Murmurs rippled. Maybe she is delusional. Maybe she's lying. The floor seemed to crumble under me. This was the major setback. My entire case teetered on collapse. Step 4. Edge. Turning the tables, I inhaled sharply, forcing myself to remember my preparation. I couldn't let them flip the board here. I lifted the microphone, voice trembling but sharp. If I were unstable, why are there letters from my father hidden from me? Why are there emails of my mother and Victor planning to erase me? I plugged in my USB and projected Victor's own words onto the big screen. If necessary, give her a few pills to create proof of instability. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned, razor sharp, toward my mother. Mom stammered, It was just a suggestion. We never. Her voice cracked. No one believed her. Victor roared, this is fabricated, digital forgery. He lunged at me, snatching for the USB. Chaos erupted, shouts echoed, people shoved. I was thrown to the red carpet floor, papers scattering around me. For a heartbeat, I thought everything was lost. Then I saw Olivia, her smug mask slipping into unease as she glanced at her father. In that flicker of hesitation, I realized I still had one last chance, though it would cost me dearly. I scrambled up, gripping the microphone. My voice rang out, if you doubt me, let the court decide. Under Northcrest law, the testimony of a 16-year-old abandoned child carries legal weight. I will bring all of this to court. The words sliced through the silence. The crowd froze. I stared Victor down, then turned to my mother. You can lie to this community, but the law won't shield you. The silence was thick as glass. Hannah stepped beside me, her hand steady on my shoulder, nodding firmly. I thought I had reclaimed control. But as we left the club, my phone buzzed. An anonymous email arrived with an attachment. The message read only, you think you've won? One final move will silence you forever. I opened the file. My breath vanished. It was a video, recorded secretly in my Silver Ridge bedroom the night I sobbed, calling out for my dad. Someone had planted a hidden camera. I froze, horror locking me in place. If they released this, the narrative could twist again. And I realized the game wasn't finished. I still had one last move. The Northcrest family court was packed that day. Dark wood walls, harsh white lights, and a suffocating heaviness hung in the air. But I sat tall, Hannah the attorney at my side, Aunt Mary just behind me. Across the aisle sat my mother and Victor, their faces like ice, flanked by a wall of suited lawyers. They believed money and influence would shield them. What they didn't know was that today, I had brought every piece that would shatter their mask. The judge struck his gavel, voice stern. We are here to determine whether Karen Carter and Victor Hale engaged in abandonment of a minor, Lily Carter, and whether deception and violations of her rights occurred. My mother spoke first, her tone syrupy sweet. Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding. I left her home to help her grow more independent. It was only 2 weeks. There was no abandonment. I clenched my fists, drew a breath, and lifted my gaze. If that was just a misunderstanding, then let the truth speak. I began with evidence number 1, the voicemail. Her voice rang across the chamber, sharp and cold. If you keep this up, don't expect to come back to Silver Ridge. Murmurs rippled. Heads shook in disapproval. Next, evidence number 2, the screenshot of Olivia's cruel post. Everyone saw the image of me stranded at the airport, captioned, Drama Queen left behind but still wants to be a princess. Outrage buzzed. I presented evidence 3, the June 5th legal draft, written in my mother's hand. Minimize the biological father's involvement. The girl is a burden in the long-term plan. Hannah read it aloud, each word slicing like a blade. Finally, evidence number 4, the email between my mother and Victor. On the big screen appeared Victor's words, if necessary, give her a few pills to create proof of instability. I have a contact in the hospital who can confirm." The room went still. Gasps rose. Whispers of "disgusting" spreading among country club members who had shown up as witnesses. The judge leaned forward, eyes locked on them. "Do you deny these are your words, your handwriting?" My mother bowed her head. Victor clenched his jaw, sweat beading his forehead. But I wasn't done. I pulled out the USB, my hidden ace. The screen flickered, revealing hidden camera footage from my Silver Ridge bedroom. There I was, sobbing, calling my father. Then Victor's voice outside the hall. "We have to make her look unstable. Let her cry. The camera is ready." The chamber froze. Not just abandonment. They had set me up, filmed me to fabricate proof. The judge slammed his gavel, voice booming. "Enough. This is not misunderstanding. This is abandonment, deliberate deception, and violation of a minor's rights." In that moment, I locked eyes with my mother. Her lips trembled, whispering, "Lily," but it was too late. The judge delivered the verdict. Full legal custody transferred to my father. A restraining order against Victor and my mother, barring contact until further ruling. A criminal investigation into Victor for fabricated evidence and illegal surveillance. Restitution ordered from my mother for years of misused child support. Scattered applause broke out from the gallery, some of them country club members who had once watched me humiliated but now saw the truth laid bare. Victor shouted, "This is a sham, I'll appeal." But court security had already stepped in, hands on his shoulders. His face twisted in rage, powerless for the first time. My mother collapsed into her chair, covering her face. No sobs, just trembling. Small, broken, ruined. Watching her, I felt both pain and the heavy weight of justice. Almost instantly, news splashed across local headlines. Silver Ridge businessmen exposed in child abandonment scandal. Former admirers turned away. The country club erased Victor's name from their rolls overnight. His company stock plummeted under the scandal. And my mother, once draped in luxury, now faced investigation and the loss of custody. The truth unraveled in front of the very people she had spent years trying to impress. These were consequences swift, brutal, and irreversible. I walked out of court into sunlight, warm across my face. In my hands, I no longer held mere evidence. I held proof that truth could triumph over wealth and lies. Aunt Mary pulled me into her arms. "You did it, Lily." For the first time in months, I smiled, light, free. Justice was served. Yet deep inside, I knew this victory was not the end. It was the beginning of a new life. And that story I would write with my own hands. After the trial, the fallout crashed down on my mother and Victor like a storm without end. Victor was dragged into a wave of investigations, financial fraud, falsified evidence, and even illegal surveillance of a minor. Investors pulled their money. His company plummeted. The man who once stood tall at the country club, cloaked in power and prestige, was now nothing more than a name splashed across crime reports. His aura crumbled, his reputation shattered. And even close friends abandoned him. My mother's fate was different. She didn't face prison, but she lost nearly everything. Cast out from the high society circles she once flaunted, she now lived under the judgmental stares of those who used to flatter her. Worst of all, she lost my trust, the only daughter she had. The image of a mother who abandoned her child to chase the illusion of a perfect family became a permanent stain she could never erase. As for me, I stepped into a new life with my father in Seattle. The house perched on a cliff above the ocean became my refuge, a place where safety returned. I had my own study, real friends, and warm dinners, things I once thought were gone forever. In my father's eyes, I was no longer a burden, but a source of pride. Yet amid all the ruin, there remained a glimmer of humanity. Jason, Victor's withdrawn son, sought me out. He spoke softly, almost whispering. "I know it wasn't fair. I'm sorry for staying silent too long." I saw sincerity in his eyes and realized not everyone in that family was complicit. Jason could redeem himself by finally speaking the truth when it mattered. Their consequences were heavy, but for me, it was more than victory. It was a door opening into a new life, one I could begin again, this time with truth as my foundation. In marriage, only the two people inside truly hold the power. And in family, truth will always be the strongest weapon to protect yourself. This was the hard lesson Lily had to pay for with tears and the pain of abandonment. But because of it, she rose again, reclaimed justice, and proved that no scheme can ever silence the truth. And what about you? If you were betrayed by the very people who should have protected you, would you stay silent or would you fight back to protect yourself? Just like Lily did? Share your thoughts in the comments, because every story, every perspective, deserves to be heard. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to True Revenge Stories, like, and share the video so others can hear it and find the same connection. Every day, we bring you powerful revenge stories where justice is served and the truth is laid bare. You can also explore more tales in the Revenge Stories playlist, a collection of confessions, reckonings, and life lessons told in the clearest way. So, are you ready to step into the next story?